Bienvenidos todos. Good afternoon. Let me make sure I got everything going here. Yes, I do. My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. I'm Director of Marketing and Communications with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. And we welcome you to En Casa con la Plaza Cocina. Every Monday afternoon, we feature the best chefs, cooks, historians, artists of the kitchen who present to you the best of Mexican food. La Plaza de Cultura y Artes brings you these conversations, presentations, demonstrations, performances from our home to yours, 3, sometimes more per week. It's our way of fulfilling our mission to tell the little known stories of Mexicans, Mexican Americans, and all Latinos in the founding, growth, and evolution of the LA region, and what's more evolutionary than our comida. So here to present today's guest, I present to you Jimena Martin, Director of Programs and Culinary Arts with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. Take it away, Jimena.
Gracias, Alberto. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to bring back a very special guest, Lola Dweck from Lola's Cocina. Lola is the founder and publisher of Lola's Kitchen and travel blog dedicated to sharing Mexico's rich culture, food, traditions, and recipes. She teaches themed cooking classes. She also manages Lola's Mercadito online, specializing in gourmet and artisan food. A Latina leader, mom. She has been highlighted in OprahMag.com, Latina Magazine, Me Too, and on Supermamas. A California native with a master's degree in business and Latin American studies. And now she lives in Highland Ranch, Colorado, with her husband and her bilingual children. Hola, Lola, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias. Thank you so much for introducing me and for having me again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think since we have a brief amount of time to cook together, I'm just going to start with a really brief personal introduction, and then we're going to get flowing in the kitchen. So just on a personal level, because I know you covered my professional bio, I've been cooking since I was about 8 years old. Food has always been something that brought the women in my family together. And it wasn't until I was an adult that my passion and my profession kind of joined their worlds. And now I'm able to do what I do through Lola's Cocina, which started back in 2013. As a passion project to share my grandmother and my aunt and my mother's recipes, and ended up turning into a business. So now I create recipes, I develop recipes for national brands across the country. I teach virtual cooking classes, which used to be in person, but I'm really liking virtual because I don't have to clean my entire house. I just have to clean what's in the camera view. And I'm also able to open up my kitchen to so many more people, not just people here in Colorado. And then, yeah, I have my online shop, Lola's Mercadito. So sometimes your passions and your,
I'm sorry, little birdie told me you won some amazing prize not too long ago.
Yes, I received the Latina Mentors Fund grant, which was offered by We All Grow Latinas. I was one of the 10 finalists, and I had to really get my friends and family and followers to vote every day for 2 weeks straight, which was a lot of work and probably really annoying for them, but it ended up paying off. And I've already started some of the projects that I identified I'd be working on. One of them is going to be a cookbook, so stay tuned for that.
Yay! Once you get your cookbook all dialed in, please come back. We'd love to have you back and celebrate your new cookbook. How exciting. Good for you.
Absolutely. So I think we're ready to get started. Today we're going to be making enfrijoladas. And for those of you who are not familiar with this dish, there are different hadas, I guess, in Mexican cooking. And the one that most people are familiar with is enchiladas. And if you just hear the word enchilada, you hear the word chile in it, which is made with a chili-based sauce. And then there's enfrijoladas, which has the word frijol. These are made with a bean sauce. Enmolada is made with mole. And then the last one is entomatadas, which I wasn't really familiar with any of them aside from enchiladas. I'm sorry, entomatadas are made with a tomato sauce. And it wasn't until I started my field research in Oaxaca when I was in grad school that I was introduced to the enfrijoladas and the entomatadas. And they're really very basic, humble dishes that have so much flavor, like many Mexican dishes. And this is one that I wanted to learn because it's really easy to prepare if you have your beans already made. And even if you don't make your beans from scratch, You can always use canned beans for this recipe to save time. And it can be super vegetarian if you don't even want, if you want to use, you know, your plant-based cheeses and creams, or you can load up on the chicken or different types of meat. I've even seen versions where they scramble an egg and stuff it inside as more of a breakfast type of dish. But like most Mexican meals, we can eat these breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I'm gonna move the camera a little so you can see my ingredients that we're gonna be cooking with today. Right here, I have some freshly made black beans, and you can actually make enfrijoladas with any type of beans. I use black beans for this because these are the first ones that I tasted when I was in Oaxaca. But you can use really any beans. You can see these are anasazi beans that I think are really beautiful and cook really well also. And then I believe these are navy beans, but I'm a huge fan of the Peruvian beans. So I use Peruvian beans and black beans the most in my cooking. But what I have here is so easy to make in the crock pot if you're not going to be home to watch your beans all day. I used 2 cups of dry beans, 1 onion that I quartered, about 4 to 5 cloves of garlic, and 10 cups of water. I put it all in the crock pot with 2 tablespoons of salt and a splash of olive oil in place of lard, which some people like to cook just because of the flavor with lard. So I put that in the crock pot and set it on 8 hours on low, and it was ready when I got up in the morning. So this is super easy to make, but if you're in a pinch, I would recommend just using canned beans, but you're gonna still have to add a little bit more flavor into them by using broth and salt and maybe possibly using some onion also. So
Lola,
right now,
before we get started, I want to people are saying hello from Laura Bastra from Long Beach, Esther from Cheyenne, Wyoming, Lola Dweck from Rockville, Maryland. Also, Carolyn Jacobs says, congrats, amiga. And our first question from Rosibel Guzman, she's asking, she's from East Hollywood, what size crock pot?
You know what? I think mine is 8 to 10 quarts. I can't remember the exact, no, I don't even know the amount of quarts, but it's the big one. I got the big one from Costco that comes with a little mini also. It's not just the basic small one, but even if you have just a normal smaller size crock pot, that would fit because I only filled my crock pot about halfway with this amount of beans. And this amount, it's me, my husband, and my 2 children, and this lasts us the full week. And what was left over after we made this recipe in my class on Friday, I used for breakfast burritos, and the mixture is so good. So the base ingredient, it's frijoles, but I also like to add a little bit of flavor by adding, these are chile chipotle in the adobo sauce, or you can use, if you don't have those, which those are super easy to find at any grocery stores. I can even find them at Target here. But you can also use a chile de árbol if you have a different dried chile. You might not want to use one of the bigger dried chiles because those have to be rehydrated, but the little ones are good just to add a little bit of spice. And I'm going to go through the process as if I were using canned beans, just so that people who aren't going to be making beans from scratch can replicate this recipe at home. Right here I already started heating my sartenes, my pans. I like to use cast iron pans. This one's an 8-inch pan. It's pretty deep. I have a comal, which I'm just going to have heating for when I need it. And then I have a little smaller pan right here, which I'm going to use to dip my oil for the tortillas. So we're going to be using the beans, the tortillas. I also have, I'll show you right here so I'm not moving the camera the whole time. I have queso fresco, which I crumbled. And then when I get to the part of garnishing, I'll show you all of the garnishes. But my first step is I'm just going to add the onion to this pan, which I don't really add onion when I make my beans from scratch because I blend the beans with the onion that I cooked it with, so they already have really good flavor. So I'm going to add that with a little spatula. And while the onion is getting nice and translucent, I am going to move to my next step, which is going to be blending the beans. And right here, I'll show you how to add a little bit more flavor to your bean medley if you're using canned beans. So first I'm gonna just add some of my beans, and you wanna save all of the broth sounds like a lot of water when you're making these 10 cups, but it's actually the perfect amount to make frijoles de olla. And some beans I feel absorb more of the water than others. The black beans definitely do. Some other ones I end up with more broth than this. So I'm adding my beans, maybe about 2 to 3 cups, which is probably equivalent to 2 cans of your beans. So I have my beans in here. I'm also gonna see.
I know when I make my batch, like you said, I do it the night before I go to bed, and I wake up, the house smells amazing.
I know, it smells so good.
It's so nice, and it's just my daughter and I, and so I usually do a whole pound, just be done with it.
Yes.
And then I put in little containers and I freeze them, and they freeze beautifully. And so like I ask me, how do you want beans? Yes. So I just take them out in the morning, and then at nighttime I just reheat them up. Or if she wants like a bean soup, I'll add a broth to it, so a little more soupier. But don't be afraid to put them in the freezer.
I love freezing my beans. Yeah, if I make only 2 cups, I don't freeze, but anything more than that, I'm just gonna add a little bit of salt, maybe about 2 teaspoons. So I've made these before and I know they just need a little splash more. So I put the 2 chipotles, 2 teaspoons of salt, and those chipotles would be the amount for this full batch of beans for my family, because my children don't eat super spicy, but they were able to handle this with the total amount of beans. And from here, now that my onions already began to fry, I would skip the onions with homemade beans because they already have so much flavor. They have, sorry about my hand right there. But as you can see in the bean broth, I use this part. I do blend the actual onion that I cooked my beans with and pieces of the garlic. So that imparts more flavor as well.
What consistency are we looking for, Lola?
We are looking for creamy, almost a little watery, creamy, not thick. We don't want it to be, I mean, we want it to pour out. So you can see that was really nice. And I'm just gonna blend maybe one more little batch of this to add to that. And you do want your pan to be hot. I use regular cooking oil, but I know some people, only make their refried beans with lard, but that's really a matter of preference. And I think they come out really flavorful either way. So that's just preference. And then from this point, we're gonna let the beans start to heat up. They're already cooked, so you're not really looking to cook them. I'm just gonna blend one more time, 1 second. So you're not really looking to cook your beans, you're just trying to heat them up and then really blend that onion flavor into them. So you saw how easily the beans poured into that, nice and juicy and liquidy, not dry at all. And one thing to note is that beans do tend to dry out the longer you cook them. So if you were to leave these on for a long time, they would end up getting a lot thicker than this, which is fine if depending on the style of beans you're looking for. But for this recipe, we want it to be able to pour on like that. So right now we're gonna switch things up and move on to the Agua Fresca, because we want the beans to develop flavor. And for my Agua Fresca, we're gonna be cooking with, blending pineapple, and that, you can make a agua de piña very easily with only pineapple. I also have cucumber because that's a really good combination. And in Mexico, a combination you'll see pretty often is piña con espinacas, pineapple with spinach. So I'm gonna go ahead and use all 3 of those because I've made this before and it's really, really good. And you can either use, I like to use organic pure cane sugar. Sometimes I use agave, sometimes I use honey. And I've even infused flavor into my aguas frescas with dates. And then
Lola?
uh-huh.
Oops, I'm sorry. Do you have any tips how to pick the perfect pineapple for
Oh,
agua?
yes. Actually, one thing that I learned, I'm not sure how true this is if when you pick up your pineapple, if you go to the grocery store, there's ones where you see how easily those little leaves came out. There are ones that if this one's right, but there are ones where you're pulling at the leaf, like this side one, and you can pick up the whole pineapple. But if you pick from the middle and it comes out really easily, that means it's right. That's what I learned. I'm not sure if that's myth or fact, but that's how I pick them up, and they're pretty good. And then I used, just so that you can see how I'm going to serve this, I have my ice right here, and then I just, with a potato peeler, I sliced a few slices of my cucumber off and just kind of wrapped it around and then added my ice. So it looks nice and pretty. I'm going to move down so that you can see this process quickly.
We have another saludo. Yolanda Ayala from Napa says hello, and Elise Huiarco says, I love that you can sneak in some good spinach. No one is wiser in terms of taste.
Yes, pineapple, if you're using kale, if you're using, someone actually in my last class asked if they can use parsley. Not parsley, I'm sorry. What was it? Celery. And I said, yes, absolutely. So pineapple actually masks the flavor of a lot of really heavy greens. So that's what I love about using pineapple. So I use.
We have another tip from Caroline Jacob. She says, great tip about the leaves, Lola. Also, I learned in Hawaii that the bigger the eyes, the circles around the pineapple, the sweeter it will be, supposedly.
Oh, that's a good one too. Yeah, I didn't know that one. So for this one, we do use the core. We don't have to waste that. There are actually some recipes, if you've heard of tepache uses the whole pineapple, the skin, the core, the fruit. So if you're trying to avoid wasting, it's a great recipe to look into. So a lot of people just get rid of the core, but I save all of this for my smoothies or if I'm using it in an agua. And you don't have to chop anything super small because it's all going to get blended, but we are going to be working in batches because we don't want our blender to overflow. So right here, I typically start with my aguas frescas with about 4 to 5 cups of water. So I add my ingredients here. And I'm going to work in batches because, let me think. No, I think I could do the whole thing.
Lola, while you are putting the pineapple into the blender again, we have some folks that just came in. They were wondering if you could be so kind to repeat the main ingredients for your beans again.
The main ingredients for my beans that I make in the crock pot, I use 2 cups of beans, 10 cups of water, and then to add flavor, I will put about 5 cloves of garlic and 1 peeled onion quartered, just so that it opens and releases all of the flavors. And I cook that on low for about 8 to 10 hours. So I'm adding about 1/4 of a cup of sugar to this, but like I said, you can use sweetener of choice. And I'm only going to use about 1/2 to 1/3 of the cucumber. Doesn't have to be cut perfectly either. And I'm going to go ahead and move this over so you can see how it blends up. And I do have some, enfrijoladas, actually, fun facts, trace back to pre-Columbian times. And it's one of the more popular, it's very popular in Mexico, but not so much here in the States. Like I said, most people have heard of enchiladas. Let's see. So this is pretty much all that's required. You see, it makes quite a bit of agua, but you can always, I add more. I taste it before adding more because aguas to me should be very flavorful. They should have the strong flavor of the fruit. They shouldn't taste like a water infused with cucumber and pineapple. They should taste like the fruit, really, really fruity. And I've actually had situations where I put too much water. So a good rule of thumb for aguas frescas is to start with 4 cups of water. And you saw the amount of pineapple I used, which it was only half of the pineapple. And my next step is I always strain these. The only agua fresca that I don't strain, I'll use this one, is watermelon, because watermelon just blends so easily, and it's water, watermelons are so watery as it is. I'm gonna pour some of this in there because I need to add the spinach right now.
Lola, I have one more question. People are really excited about the enfrijoladas. About the beans, how much oil did you use in your saute pan for the?
In my saute pan, I used about maybe 2 tablespoons of oil in that pan, just to give it a nice coat. And then that's when I added the onion. And once that's really hot is when I add the beans. You can hear them sizzling. And there are some fun facts about aguas frescas too. The classic trinity of aguas is they're actually, so aguas frescas are typically made with fresh local ingredients, fruits, summer fruits, whatever's growing. But the ones that you're gonna find most often are actually made with rice or chata or tamarind, which these are tamarind pods you can see, and each little knuckle is where there's a seed. And this is what it looks like inside. This is the pulp of the tamarind. So what you do to make the agua de tamarindo, you have to soak these in hot water, boiling water. And then once they've softened up, you remove the shells and all of these little kind of fibers. And then it's quite time, and it requires a lot of time because you have to pop out all of the seeds from the pulp, and you're left with the pulp, which you blend with water and make your agua. And then another popular one, I already said rice was horchata tamarindo, and then the last one is hibiscus, which is not the same flower that you use or that you find in Hawaii, or you see it a lot in California growing too. This is a different hibiscus, and hibiscus actually is originates in Africa and what was brought to Mexico in colonial times, which I think is really interesting. And tamarindo also was said to originate in, or what does it say, in India during colonial times, and it was just adapted to Mexican taste, like many other ingredients that were introduced here.
Lola, I know it's a little bit off topic, but people are Chispas Hills. Is that sorry? I know it's off topic, but your earbuds have earrings. I need those.
Oh no, these are just my earrings. I'm wearing earrings separate from my earbuds. So these are separate. That'd be cool though, to add earrings to earbuds so you don't even have to think of that. So right here, I'm just continuing to strain my agua. I added let me see, let me move you down again. This is the process that takes the longest. The blending is super easy, which is why if you really are in a pinch, but you wanna impress and wow a crowd, you could make the agua de sandia, the watermelon agua fresca, because it does not have to be strained like this, but almost every other one, if you're making it with guayabas, this is pretty much the basic recipe that you can use for any fruit. Guayabas, papaya, what else? I made some that's just with cucumber, but the straining is what kind of is a little time consuming. Sometimes I'll just let it, drip while I'm doing something else. And then I have, okay, so I don't know if you've had, how many people are familiar with Fanny Gerson. She's a Mexican author of really good books. I have actually, one of them is the Paletas cookbook.
Oh, lovely.
And the other one, she has actually 3. She has My Sweet Mexico also. And this is the helados one. But there's a fun quote by her about aguas frescas. It says, according to Fanny Gerson, who penned the book Paletas in 2011, the history of aguas frescas can be traced all the way back to the Aztecs. While on their journeys between their farms and the capital city of Tenochtitlan, now known as Mexico City, they would muddle the fruit with water to fuel up and stay hydrated. I think it's just really interesting how all of these very traditional recipes that we're known for have roots, all over. The pineapple even is believed to have originated in Brazil and the cucumber from India. So one other fun fact, by the 1940s, the Agua Fresca, the Agua Fresca and its close cousin, the paleta, migrated into the US in vendor carts along with other sweet and savory treats, and in time, entire business empires were built on cold fruit infusions. Many of you know, like La Michoacana, all built around these very popular Mexican dishes.
Lola, I actually have her book here, Fanny Gerson's book. I have the My Sweet Mexico.
Yes, I was just looking at that over the weekend. I love all of her books. They're so
I'll put it on the chat.
specialized.
Yeah, I'll put it on the chat. That way people can look her up for all 3 of her books. But thank you for sharing.
Yes. And if people are interested also in learning more about just the origins of the ingredients that were, here, this is another one of my favorites, the Columbian Exchange. It talks about everything that was brought to the Americas and taken back from the Americas during the, the conquest. So that, we're gonna move on. I'm just gonna let this kind of start straining on its own because we're gonna move on to the Enfrijoladas next. I'm gonna move this aside. So just to give you a quick viewing of what we're working with the Enfrijoladas, I also have a bunch of different garnishes. The typical ones are made just with beans and cheese if you want, but sometimes they could be made just with beans. I have crema mexicana. I really like the flavor and the texture that just little shelled sunflower seeds add. Yeah, these are sunflower seeds. And I have the queso fresco. And I like to add a little bit of freshness with lettuce or anything else that's kind of fresh and green. Here's some, if you go to Mexico, you'll typically see it with a little bit of crema, queso, and then some onion rings. So I have a little bit of red onion here. And then I always love salsa on everything. So I have some salsa. And if you're fancy, you can add little edible flowers. So now we're gonna move on, and I'm going to show you this process of the enfrijoladas from a side view. The first thing you want to do is, there's a joke going around about this woman who makes enfrijoladas, and she literally just gets the tortillas out of the fridge and she just throws the beans on them, and they don't look appetizing at all. But I always heat the tortillas. If you're really in a crunch for time, you can put them into the microwave in something like this, or in a cotton cloth, one that you haven't washed with a strong soap or softener, because that's gonna add flavor, a soapy flavor to your tortillas. So I heat these up. You can see the texture of my beans is still really creamy. It's nice. They're getting a little thicker, but they're still nice and creamy. And
Lola? Rosibel Guzman is asking if you could use frozen pineapple. If so, how many cups?
I would use probably three cups at least of frozen pineapple for the same amount that we made, which was I started with 4 cups of water. And I have made it with even canned pineapple and with blueberries or with frozen blueberries. That combination is really good as well. But yes, you can definitely use frozen, you can use canned. But if you do have access to fresh, that's always really good as well. But yeah, I like to have frozen fruit on hand also. So I have my oil that's heated right here. I have my beans that are already ready to go right here. And I would say that if you're serving and you're going to be serving per person, you can serve in a plate and maybe put 2 or 3. But if you are serving for a group of people, you might want to use a bigger dish, something like, beans gone, but something like this that has a higher lip so that the juices can kind of fall into this.
Lola?
Yes?
Those are beautiful plates. Can we find some of those plates in your mercadito?
No, I don't sell any pottery because it's so hard to ship, but these are actually made by Anfora in Puebla, Mexico, and Pottery Barn carries them. So you can find them here, which is so much easier just to order them here and not have to worry about the shipping. or bringing something back from Mexico. And then this one is just, this was a gift from my friend Liliana. So then my tortillas, I have these heated a little. And my next step is going to be it's a three-step process: heat, oil, and then beans. And I know some people in my last class asked, do you have to fry them? And it is part of this process, but if you're really, really trying to avoid frying, then I would say at minimum heat them on a comal, not in the microwave, so that they get a little bit better of a, I like the way they feel when they're off of the comal.
Yeah, I did some enchiladas during the week, and I dipped them in the sauce. I noticed that's the first time I ever did it. I actually cooked them a little bit in oil, then I dipped it in the sauce. Gave it a better texture, and also they didn't fall apart. They were corn tortillas. It
helps keep them together. Yes, exactly. That I had that problem too, and then I realized when I got the step-by-step from my aunt, I was missing a whole step in the process. So yes, the oil does help.
And just fry them up a little bit, just a little bit to, not crispy, just enough to like give a little extra texture. And also people are asking, what temperature are you cooking your beans at right now? Like how high, the flame?
This is on low now, but you can see they're still bubbling. So I would say medium, low, or now I'm just gonna put it on simmer because they're already ready. And then my tortillas you see they already have nice texture. So I'm gonna go ahead and work in batches. I'm gonna dip in the oil first. And it's like you said, you're not frying, you're not looking for a tostada. I literally just put it in for a few seconds and then we're done because this oil is pretty hot. Let me lower that one. That one was on a medium flame, medium high probably. So I'm gonna dip that in there and I'm gonna do my second one quickly.
Lola, while you're frying, people are admiring your chef's coat. They're asking if you got it in Oaxaca. It's beautiful.
I didn't get this in Oaxaca. I got this, actually, there's a designer in Yucatan. Her name is Soraya Robles Diseño. If you look her up on Instagram, Soraya Robles Diseño. She works with the women of Yucatan who embroider beautifully. And I literally sent her my measurements and she created it, specific for my size, which I love it. And I always get compliments. So I decided I'm just gonna wear it for all my cooking classes and I don't have to stress about figuring out what I'm gonna wear.
So what's your last name again? Soraya what?
Soraya Robles Diseño.
Robles. Okay, Robles Diseños.
And you can message her and she even ships. So from here I'll show you. I'm gonna put one and the second one. And I'm going to add my cheese to these right here. So I just have queso cotija, and I'm going to just get a little. But you can use queso Oaxaca. Like I said, you can scramble an egg and make it a little bit more of a breakfast type dish. You can use plant-based cheese if you are trying to avoid anything with dairy, and you fold these over. Or you roll them. The more advanced version would be to roll them, the way you see enchiladas. And then the beginner version would be stacked, where you just put one tortilla that you dipped, and then put a layer of the cheese, and then put another tortilla, and you could put your shredded chicken or whatever you're working with for that, in terms of garnishing. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do just 2 more, and I'll show you how I garnish them and how I serve the agua after that. You have the view of the stove right here, right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, and someone in my last class actually asked, oops, I forgot to heat that one. Someone in my last class actually asked if you could freeze these, and I've never frozen these, but I imagine that if you do, the best time to freeze them would be when you just put the first layer of beans onto them, and then maybe freeze a bit of the sauce so that you can bring them back to life after you reheat them. And I would also recommend rolling them instead of just folding them over, because I think they'd freeze better if you were to roll them. So you just see this process is really simple. I do have 2 pair of tongs because I I don't want to dip my tongs that I used in the beans into the oil because it might make them pop. And then you see the tortilla doesn't fall apart like they would if you were to use them raw or not heated properly. And then add another coat of cheese, I'm sorry. Let me see. And one thing to know about black beans is that they offer a unique protein fiber combination that isn't found in any other meat or food group. So it's really good to, if people are looking to increase their protein intake, can do that with black beans. Or any beans actually, but I think black beans are a little bit higher in certain types of proteins. So this is pretty much the process of the enfrijoladas. My last part is going to show you how to make them beautiful with garnishes. And in my last class, I did have leftover chicken that I had shredded from a batch of pozole that I made. And I do have some rotisserie chicken that's left over, but I'm just going to keep these vegetarian or meatless for now. I've even had some versions that have, at a really good restaurant here in Denver, that have roasted veggies. And that's it, instead of having meat, and they were delicious. So this is the same process that you would go through to make enchiladas as well, except you're gonna be using a chili sauce instead of a bean sauce. And like I said, the entomatadas, all of those are the exact same process, except with a different base sauce with the tortillas and sauce, and that's pretty much it, whatever you want to use to fill them. I'm going to add these to this one. When I made this in my class on Friday, I always have so many leftovers after these classes, but after that class I was starving, and by the time I sat down to eat, my husband had already given the whole platter away to the neighbors. So I had to make myself a new batch. So I'm going to set those aside, and then I'm going to show you from this point. I'm going to aim down a little. From this point, what you would do, this would be probably a single serving, and I am going to add some more bean sauce to this because they're not supposed to look dry. They're supposed to be really saucy. But like I said, if you were going to freeze them, you freeze them when they just have a little bit of sauce, and then you can add the rest of the sauce after. And if you're going to stack them, it's kind of fun to put them in a wide bowl, because then the bowl catches all of the sauces that would drip. Just clean out this plate a little. So here is that, and my first coat I would add here would be the crema, probably. And I can add more after that. And if this is a crema mexicana, but you can always use what you have accessible, or you can use, a lot of people who are avoiding dairy use the cashew cream, which is has really good flavor too. And this is you can use queso cotija, queso fresco. Inside you can also use queso Oaxaca, the stringy cheese, or which is really similar to mozzarella. But I don't think I would use mozzarella. I would use a stringy cheese, even a Syrian cheese if you have access to that. There's that. And then I would add, I love these. People, you might not find this with all of these toppings in other places, but I really love to add texture and, I mean, the protein and different ingredients found in all of these toppings. The freshness of the red onion. Yes?
Sorry, Melinda's asking, when adding other proteins or roasted vegetables, would you put in the middle or more as a garnish?
No, I would put it in the middle. I would put it in with the cheese. Or if you're only using, if you're not using cheese, just put the chicken. And here's the garnishes are the more of the fresh stuff that you're adding on top. But the fillings would be the cheese if you're using queso Oaxaca, or the chicken, or the egg. Or if you're using serving it with a fried egg, you can also put that on top. But I would probably serve it on the side of these if I were serving it for breakfast. Then you can add fun little garnishes, and your salsa, if you want to add some salsa. But your actual, what's it called? Your actual beans would have a little bit of kick because you added the chipotle. And in Oaxaca, they use, it's called chile pasilla, Oaxaqueño. So it has a really similar flavor to chile chipotle, but it's a dried chili and you rehydrate it. And it's just really delicious. So these are the garnishes. You saw I added a layer of crema, cheese, the little red onion, lettuce just for freshness, and some of these little sunflower seeds. So this is the enfrijoladas, and then I'm going to just show you how the agua is coming out. Where did I put it? Oh, so the agua is right here. But what I would do from this point is refrigerate it if you're not going to drink it right away. And if you are going to drink it, I would water it down with a lot of ice. So you would just fill this whole pitcher with ice. Oftentimes the aguas come out a little bit sweeter than I like, but when you water them down with plenty of ice, it's almost as if this were the concentrate and then you're watering it down. Instead of adding more water to this base flavor, you want to add water through the melted ice. So that's what I'm gonna do. I would do that right here. And like I said, I put the little leaf of the cucumber in here. I've even seen, oh, I think I threw it out. I've even seen where people throw the little tip of the pineapple. So this one, last week I made it with, I added more. Yeah, I would say stick to the 4 cups of water. And if you're using 1/4 cup of sugar, definitely put more ice or water it down with an additional cup of water, because in my class last week, I felt like it was a little too sweet for me, but I don't like very many sweet drinks. And I had the same measurements, but only 1 cup of water less. And I like it a little bit less sweet.
I have 2 questions for you. One, back to your beautiful enfrijoladas, is what garnishes did you use? And also, what was the size of the pitcher you just showed us right now?
The size of the pitcher, I would say this is probably, let me see, a liter. I think it probably holds at least a liter of agua.
Okay.
And then, but I use small ones too, just because they're easier to fit into my refrigerator. So that doesn't really matter, but I do love that size of pitcher. And then I'll go back to the garnishes right here. I used queso fresco for the main filling and as a garnish. I also used crema mexicana, which if you're not familiar with crema mexicana, it's similar to a sour cream, but you can see the texture, it's a lot more watery and it's also not as sour. It's a little bit more mild in terms of flavor. And then I use little sunflower seeds that come already out of the shell. You don't have to chew the sunflower and spit these out, sunflower seed. And then I also used red onion and green lettuce. And then if you have access to edible flowers, you can get those at the grocery store, or if you have a garden that doesn't use pesticides, a lot of garden flowers are actually edible. And then you can see, I just garnished it here, and you would probably need a knife to chow down on this because just to cut through the tortillas. And that's your final dish, and this is your agua, which I love. I really love garnishes and rims and making the drinks pretty. So you can do, if you're serving it in a pitcher, there's also, if you're hosting a big party and you have access to a Mexican grocery store, they have the big vitroleros, which they're kind of the shape of a honeycomb, and they have a lid. So if you're hosting a big party, which no one's really doing these days right now, but if you do at some point in the future, you can make your agua, double this recipe, triple it, and serve it on a ton of ice in the vitrolero, and just have your scooper, your ladle handy. Otherwise, if you're just having it at home in a pitcher, is perfect. And if you're doing it in a vitrolero, you could also include chunks of pineapple and cute sliced cucumber, or even just the ribbons of cucumber, so that it looks really, really pretty, which is what they do in Mexico. You learn all of this from the experts in the Mexican mercados.
That looks so delicious. As you know, we can always make into an adult cocktail by adding a little tequila, a little mezcal, a little vodka.
Yes, exactly. And if you were to do that, I would just keep the concentrate a little bit more potent. because you're probably going to water it down a little bit with your tequila or with whatever alcohol and ice you're going to be using. So just keep your base strong and flavorful so that you can just add your spirit of choice.
Lola, this has been amazing. Please tell us where we can find your cooking classes, your virtual classes. Please tell us more about your grant, cookbook ideas, presentations. Please share before we pass it on to Mr. Averaldo.
Yes, so you can find everything that I'm doing on lolascocina.com. That's where I publish all of my new recipes. And I also share that on social media, on Facebook and on Instagram. And Lola's Mercadito, I have the links to all of that on my Facebook, on my Instagram. And my shop is on Etsy. And then I am coming out with my line of children's products, which should launch by, hopefully by the holidays, by Black Friday. So I'm coming out with my children's products. I already have my labels printed for the new salsa that I'm launching. And my next big project is going to be my cookbook. So stay tuned for all of that.
Well, once you have all that, please share with us through our social media, through Instagram, our Facebook. We'd love to share all your successes. And please keep us posted on everything that's up and coming with you. But thank you. Thank you again for the delicious recipe. And for those, we'll be sending those out. For those who register via Zoom, we will send you the beautiful recipe. Or if not, please check out Lola's website for more information and other more delicious recipes as well. Mr. Averaldo, se lo paso.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much, Lola. I wish I was there to enjoy both the Enfrijoladas and the Agua Fresca, but we'll have to make do with just imagining how wonderful it tastes and try it ourselves. So thanks to all who joined us today. DG says, my daughter loves this Agua Fresca. I'm sure she will love the Enfrijoladas as well. I have somebody at the door, excuse me.
Somebody named Linda over here?
Linda's right here. This is live, everybody. So we have people coming in from all over, as Jimena mentioned, from all over. Napa, California. Carmen Gomez Ponce says, this looks delicious. So thank you very much, Lola. Just to get to what we're going to be doing this upcoming week, tomorrow, Wednesday, October 7th, we have Tomas Sáenz, President and General Counsel of MALDEF. He'll be presenting Equal Opportunities for All, which talks about an important proposition here in California, Proposition 16. And then a little bit of entertainment for all of us on Friday, which we all need, of course, October 9th, San Miguel and Estrés. San Miguel is a Cuban artist living here in LA, and he'll be demonstrating and performing for us the tres, a traditional Cuban instrument. Thanks so much to SoCal Gas and California Humanities for these sessions, this session, and all the ones that we've had, a few of the ones that we've had in the past and in the future. If you didn't catch all of this session, please go to our website lapca.org. We also host them on our YouTube page at La Plaza LA, and then also on our Facebook page at La Plaza LA. You can catch all 22 of La Cocina sessions. There's been 22 already. That's a lot of food that's out there for all of us to enjoy. One last thing, next week we will not be here on our regular Monday slot within Casa con la Plaza Cocina. It is Indigenous Peoples Day here in Los Angeles and in California. So please, time to commemorate our ancestors by taking a deep dive into what it means to live in a land which was colonized, but which we have been able to thrive in. Also next Wednesday, a big event for La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. It's our virtual gala. Every year we, of course, have our fundraising gala with entertainment, food, cocktails, networking, weedy, silent auction. This year, we're doing it all online. So I'm gonna go ahead and share our link with you to get you to please participate. There, we do sell tickets, we do sell sponsorships, but we also are going to stream it on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page, and on our Instagram page. And that's next Wednesday, October 14th, 6 to 8. It's going to be very enjoyable. We've been working really hard for all of you to enjoy our culture in your homes. So thank you so much, Lola. Any last words for us?
No, thank you. And if anyone makes any of these recipes, make sure you send me a picture. I'd love to see.
All right, thank you. How about you, Jimena? Anything to say?
No, mil gracias, Lola, for coming in and beautiful recipe. Congratulations again. Please keep us posted. Y ahora se la paso a Beraldo. Thank you.
Oh, muchas gracias. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Nos vemos muy pronto. Bye-bye.